All right, everybody, welcome to the special edition. Today we have Trey Ogden on the podcast, my brother, UFC fighter. He has an upcoming fight, his first UFC fight, April 16th versus Jordan Leavitt. Trey, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. What's up?
Just another day, man. So how are you preparing for this right now? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, but it is very short notice for a fight, 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah, I'm always training, so I kind of knew to be ready in April. I was hoping to get a short notice fight in April, so I've been training. So, I just wasn't training opponent specific, but I did a jiu-jitsu match last weekend, so I was training hard for that. And then I ended up getting an opponent who specializes in jiu-jitsu, so it's perfect for me because I've basically been in camp for him already. And then now I'm just doing like double time, just specific tactical things for the specific matchup.
Yeah. Through your career, you've taken on a few short fights before. What challenges do you find whenever you do that? Obviously, less time to prepare, but like, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm always like close to a fight camp level volume, so I don't necessarily find like a challenge as far as like the limited time for preparation. It's just you have less time to game plan for a specific opponent, but at the same time, they have the similar timeline to game plan for you as well. So, I mean, he knew which day he was fighting, but it's still a short notice opponent for him. So, it doesn't really matter to me much.
Is there anything, because this will be your first UFC fight, is there anything that you're doing differently for a UFC fight than you've done throughout your career? Or are you kind of just keeping it same way you always have?
I think it's like been like a slow, steady progression of like of refining my process. So I'm just trying to operate the most refined version of my process, like I will continue to. But it being the UFC specifically doesn't necessarily change anything. Honestly, if anything, like my last fight was scheduled 5 rounds at altitude, and this one's scheduled 3 rounds not at altitude. So, um, you know, if anything, like physically, the last fight would have been a taller task. So it's pretty business as usual.
Specific opponent here, what is it that you're really honing in on? Obviously, you can't give away too much right now, but what is it specifically that he does well that you're really trying to focus on for this fight?
I feel like he has some tricky jujitsu from like almost unorthodox jujitsu. So I'm just making sure that I'm kind of figuring like seeing exactly like where he's awkward and where he's less awkward, and just keeping my position super fundamental and super tight, and just training for specific tendencies that I see him doing. But I definitely think we'll be grappling in the fight, so I'm doing a lot of grappling.
Yeah. I know back in, I believe it was 2020 or 2019, that you had to cancel a few fights because of your injuries. How is your body right now? You obviously
Great, best it's ever been.
best it's ever been, really. That was it the collarbone that was messed up? That was
And
earlier?
series of bullshit. So I had a hernia surgery, and that started it all. Well, I blew my LCL in November of 2020, and up to that point, I really hadn't been like seriously injured, and that was
Yeah.
a freak thing. And so I blew my LCL in my knee, and I knew I needed to. I had some hernias for a while, so I decided that while my knee was healing, that I would get the hernia surgeries taken care of because they were really starting to plague me, kind of like all day. So
Yeah.
so then I got the hernia surgeries, and then my knee healed, and then the hernias healed, and I was training for a fight, and I like blew a rib out like on like fight week, and just like another
Yeah.
week. And then I healed from that, and then I was close about 2-3 weeks out from a fight, and I had the most weirdest mystery collarbone injury thing. But basically, I dislocated the SC joint. Is essentially what happened, and that took like 3 or 4 months to heal before I.
Yeah.
So it was just like 3 or 4 like unlucky weird things. Like, the LCL was the only injury of the four that I could like pinpoint even when it happened or what happened. That one was like super obvious to me when it happened, but like none of the other ones were. They just like kind of crept up on me. So, uh, yeah, it was just like a really frustrating time.
Yeah, no, because you'd literally never had to cancel a fight before that.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden that year, it was like every time you were right before you fought, you'd get a new injury, and I was like, damn,
yeah.
that's really unfortunate. But
But
yeah, going back to last week, you said you competed in a jiu-jitsu thing. What was kind of that? Because I saw you post about it on Facebook, and I was kind of curious because that's not typically what you do.
yeah, it was just like a 10-minute jiu-jitsu match. I don't get to fight as often anymore, so I'm looking to
Yeah,
start doing jiu-jitsu matches just to keep myself competing
yeah,
against a pretty reputable local guy. And It was a less eventful match than I would have liked, but I won a decision. It was like 10-minute submission only. At the end, the judges picked who was like the more aggressive, busier grappler, and I had passed him and mounted him towards the end, and I think that's what got the win for me.
Do you think that that is good practice for the guy that you're facing? Because you said he is kind of a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, and the preparation for it, but definitely like the just the process of being backstage, warming up, walking out on a stage in front of a room full of people, and competing. That alone is just valuable. And I hadn't done it in a while, and so I got reminded how valuable that experience was.
Yeah.
It was definitely something I want to do in between fights more often.
So is this your first time fighting in Vegas?
Yep.
So that's a big deal. That's the big
Yep.
fights. That's going to be a big crowd. Are you intimidated at all by that? How do you kind of hold that in? Because I know when I have like 20 people watching me compete in something, I'm nervous. So how do you hold that in?
Yeah. Well, some of it's experience, but in Vegas right now, we're fighting in the Apex with no crowd. So that's kind
Oh,
of
really?
opposite awkward. Awkward is there's
That
like
is, that is awkward.
it's almost like 50 people in there, so it's like it's real quiet, and you can hear the
That's
coaches
weird. Yeah.
and you can hear the commentators, which is going to be strange to like hear the commentators talking about you fighting while you're fighting is going to be weird.
That is weird. Yeah.
But the platform is the biggest I've ever fought on. So like it's on ESPN.
Right. Yeah.
Like, but more than anything, I think that it excites me because of the level of opportunity and exposure you get. And so more than hindering me, I feel like that enhances me now.
Yeah.
So
Talking.
and fighting a big arena, I think that also I would just pull energy from it more than it will like make me nervous at this point. But there was a time where I used to be like, oh man, so and so's gonna here, so and so's here. There's so many people here, you know. But you
Yeah.
compartmentalize it and just think about it. I have like a set of things associated with fighting that I just put in a folder to think about after the fight. Like I don't like try to take it in until like after the fight, and then I just like let it all rush in.
Yeah. So what do you? This has kind of always fascinated me with all fighters. Fight day, a few hours before the fight, everybody kind of has their own way that they get mentally prepared to fight. What is it that you do normally? Do you have the same routine every time? Do you change it? What is it that you do pre-fight to get yourself ready mentally and physically?
Well, I feel like that's a process leading up to the fight, and by fight day, it's kind of done. You know, by fight day, it's just kind of sitting with this awkward feeling until you
Yeah.
fight. And but I don't know. Like I used to fall asleep backstage. That used to be my thing.
Really?
I would take a nap backstage, but I would be like the last fight of the night, and I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
like sitting there nervous the whole time, and I would just like fall asleep. And then when I'd wake up, I'd feel like really re-energized, and like kind of quiet minded. But at this point, man, I just don't need. I don't really overthink it much anymore. I just like trust in my preparation. I feel like I've prepared well, and I know I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna do what I'm capable of doing, and I just try not to like talk to myself about how I feel. I just try to feel how I feel and accept how I feel as if it's correct. And so like I feel like a lot of times when people get nervous for some kind of competition or a job interview or something, they start talking to themselves about the feelings that they're calling nervous, and then they start like narrating these things into like stories in their mind. And I just try to avoid talking to myself in words about the nerves and anxiety, but rather feel the actual feeling and be present with it and recognize that this is like a physiological response that your body has that's probably correct because it knows it's about to go into a combat situation. And so what you're feeling is a heightened sense of awareness, heightened state, extra energy. And I think that all too often, especially fighters, they turn that feeling into like I'm a pussy. Like you know what I mean? They turn it into
Yeah.
words and then they get in their
Yeah.
head. And so I just try not to talk to myself about it much.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I don't know how you guys do it because I'm watching it scares the hell out of me. I'm watching you in the arena, and I'm like, every time you're getting hit, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm nervous you're about to get knocked out. So I don't even know how you mentally do it. But
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's weird because when like we watch fights live and you hear someone get kicked, and it's like, you know, and you're like,
yeah,
is that what it sounds like? Why do we do this? But when you're in there, it just seems normal.
yeah. So you've done a little bit of coaching, I've seen
Yeah,
on
yeah,
for
man.
Glory. So how different? I mean, we're kind of talking about it now. Do you like fighting or watching these guys more? Do you like it's a different situation because like when you're in there, like you said, your adrenaline's going. It's not the same. Like you're in the moment. When you're watching these guys that you've been coaching, do you find that like harder to do because you just want to like you know what to do and it's hard because you're just watching them and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh man, I want them to do this, but I can't do anything about it. Like,
Every fighter's different. Like,
yeah,
they're all different. Like, some of my fighters like are gonna listen to they're gonna do anything I tell them to do. If I
yeah,
tell them to jump out of the cage, they'll fucking jump out of the cage. And so then it's just a matter of the matchup, you know. But every like one of my favorite quotes: "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for he is not the same man, and it is not the same river." And it's like that's coaching and fighting. Is it's like it's never quite the same feel or experience, but I can't say that coaching is extremely meaningful, and I get a ton out of it. And I love fight nights with the team, and love going in there and seeing them win and seeing them do good and seeing them overcome adversity uh, and I've learned a lot about myself and my process by
yeah,
being so connected to them and their process and watching them. So I don't really view like I got a question when I got signed to the UFC. What on Instagram it was like, what are you more proud of, like getting signed to the UFC or opening the gym? And it's like my answer was like they're the same thing to me. Like this
mhm,
is all like one mission to me. So like
right,
me fighting, one of my fighters fighting, being in the gym coaching, being at a jiu-jitsu tournament or local jiu-jitsu matches, or it all is like the same mission to me, you know. So it all is like kind of none of it carries any weight different than any of the rest of it.
yeah. And so you talk about getting signed to the UFC. So let's go back to last November on your 32nd birthday. You win that fight. You get signed. I watched that video. I watched the Dana White looking for a fight. That was so awesome to see. Take me through that because I didn't really get to talk to you much about that experience, that fight, that entire like moment. What was that like for you?
Man, it was very vindicating, you know. I
Hmm.
had a lot of work in and a long journey, and then I got to the doorstep of the UFC, like one fight away, but I got hurt for 18 straight months and couldn't fight, and it was just like a crazy moment. And it was the first real opportunity I got with the UFC, and it was the only one I was gonna get, and I knew that
Yeah.
going into it. And so I had a tough opponent, and then the fight went like really according to plan. And then I was pretty sure I had done enough to get the contract, and so it was just
Yeah.
like an overwhelming sense of like satisfaction because of the length of the journey and the amount of
Hmm.
adversity, and just like the weight of the moment was just, it was way more than it would have been if I got signed to the UFC like 4 years ago or something. You know, it was just like, and then I had the gym and a bunch of my members were out there, and it was just like crazy. So it was, I really never did get words for it, but it was
Yeah.
pretty fucking awesome. It was probably the best moment of my life so far.
Yeah. No, it was sick. And I mean, you are 32. It's kind of an older age to just be starting in the UFC. So what are some of your goals in this time that you're going to be there? Do you have a certain amount of wins you want to get? Is there a certain milestone you want to hit? What are your goals for your time in the UFC now?
Well, one of the goals that I wrote down for myself like 5 years ago was my MMA competition goal. The official one I wrote down was to finish a ranked contender on their way up, not on their way down. So that's top 10 to me, not top 15. So I would like to finish someone in the top 15, put them away in their prime. And but I'm willing to take it as far as I can. I think I'll fight in the UFC for 5 years, and I'm going to give it everything I have for the next 5 years. See what I can do with it. But I don't plan on, I plan on fighting 10 to 15 times, and I'd like to have 10 to 15 consecutive finishes would be ideal in my mind.
So how do you, especially getting like in that time frame, you're going to be getting mid to upper 30s. How are you going to keep your body like able to fight? Because a lot of fighters, when they get to this age, they start to break down. They're not the same. They lose a step. How are you planning on keeping your body fresh enough to go that long?
Well, this year I'm actually aging backwards, so I'll be this year, so I'll be feeling pretty good. But I think that just comes with discipline, with your diet and your lifestyle and your training. And so yeah, I'm eating as pretty much as clean as I can. If I'm not eating clean, it's because my weight has dropped too low. Sometimes I struggle with that because I train a lot, and I just need to like put calories in my body. But yeah, I'm trying to eat as clean as possible. I sauna 3 times a week. I stretch over an hour a day every single day without fail. So I train smarter than I used to. I'm not breaking myself down quite as much. My volume's really high, and I'm pretty like sore and tired all the time. But I'm not doing like all out like heavy weightlifting.
Yeah.
I'm respecting the process a little more. Sleeping 8 hours a night. I'm super disciplined with that. So I think that I can be even in my physical prime up to about 37, and and I think I could compete after that. I just don't want to. I want to train for my whole life, so I want
Right.
to I'll probably compete in jiu-jitsu after that age, but I want to retire from competition with a body that can rejuvenate 100% and then be on the mats for another 30 years.
Yeah.
The long short answer is just like really focused on longevity. And so at one point my training switched about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And especially through all those injuries, I had to reevaluate everything. I started training with longevity as the primary mindset. Like, hey, I want to be around for a really long time. I need to make sure everything I'm doing is sustainable.
And you're not concerned at all about those injuries that you just got, that those would prevent you from accomplishing this? Those aren't going to linger?
They've all healed. I'm 100%. My collarbone, 100%. My knee healed 100%. My rib healed 100%. Like I said, I'm honestly the least banged up I've ever been. I'm as healthy as I've ever been, and I think some of that comes from the lessons I absorbed through that process. I used to have hernias, two
Yeah.
hernias, which is not fun to train all day on, and I don't have those anymore. And that alone is just makes me feel so much different. So honestly, dude, I would say I'm 32. I would say I feel better than I did when I was like 29. Like I was pretty fucked up. I was pretty beat
No,
up.
you were getting. I
Yeah.
always remember that story where I think you won this fight and you got in the elevator afterwards, and then you went back to the hotel and your piss was the color of like Coca-Cola. That story was always. I
Uh,
tell my friends
I,
that all the time.
I was actually at the venue. I peed that color. I went in the shower at the venue. The venue had a shower. I
Uh-huh.
was really hard 3 round fight, and that would have been like 2017ish or 18ish. And
Mhm.
yeah, I went. I got in the shower. I peed in the shower, and it was just like brown.
Holy shit.
Oh, I'd never seen that. Like freaked me the fuck out. And I knew
Yeah.
that was. I knew it was like you're basically in rhabdomyosis, which is when your muscle tissue is breaking down so fast your kidneys can't clear it. And
Wow.
so that happens have you ever heard of David Goggins?
I
The
haven't.
marathon guy, check him out, he's cool as shit. But like real extreme like endurance feats, sometimes people will get like rhabdo and you can die from it. And so I was like,
Yeah.
oh fuck. And then I was like, dude, I can't drink tonight, because it was like right after the fight, you want to drink and stuff. And I knew I was
Yeah.
walking back down into this little crowded venue of people wanting to drink, and I was like, I can't drink tonight. I can't drink till I pee clear. And I took the shower. I finished the shower. Went downstairs. I got handed some alcohol. I drank it. I forgot all about this shit. I didn't even think about it again until the next morning, and I peed clear, and it all ended up all right. But it was pretty intense. Yeah.
Would you say that's the scariest thing that you've seen from fighting, or is there a better story? Or there's something that spooked you even more?
Well, with me personally, or period, that I've seen.
Either. We'll just.
Well, the scariest thing I think I've ever seen is when Michael Venom Page flying kneed Cyborg in Bellator in the head and put a fucking literal dent fracture.
Oh my God.
And if you haven't seen that, Google that, because that is. And then they X-rayed it the next day. And I actually fought on Bellator the next week, and I just, oh my god, that was probably the scariest thing I've ever seen with fighting, besides like the leg snap thing.
Oh
But
yeah.
I don't know. I would say yeah, that's one of the scarier ones. I saw this kid one time when I was an amateur. He got his nose broke in the fight, and it was like, you know, and they were backstage. The medics were backstage trying to set it back straight.
Oh.
And he's just like bawling tears. And he's just like, ah, and they'd be like, okay, one more time. And he'd be like, ah. And after like five, I remember, oh my God. And like 5 minutes after, they pushed on his nose for like 5 minutes. Like, yeah, we can't fix it. You need to go to the hospital. I was just, oh, Jesus, what are we doing here?
Jesus. Well, is there anything else you want to say about your fight coming up, or anything else you just want to put out there before we wrap this thing up?
Just follow me on Instagram, Trey_Ogden. Wait, no, I changed that.
No, it's not that anymore. I was gonna say.
Marathon_MMA.
Yep.
And then, Glory MMA Overland Park. That's where I'm teaching full time. And then shout out to my sponsor, Native Hemp Company. They're a local CBD company in Lee Summit. They're super cool. They also have Delta 8, all that kind of stuff, and all organic stuff, free shipping. They have a website. They'll ship anywhere free. And Ogden MMA will get you 20% off.
And if people want to watch this upcoming fight, you said it's on ESPN?
Yeah, it'll be on ESPN Plus. Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, Trey, thank you for your time and good luck in your fight.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.